so first off, let's start with this one. Forgetting my speech. Okay, first I got to acknowledge that probably everything that's up here on the board is a fear that you have, and it's a reasonable fear. All right? It's a realistic and reasonable fear. You should probably be scared of some of these things. All right, so let's start there. Most of them are probably pretty realistic. All right, forgetting my speech. Yes, that's going to happen. All right? Yes, that's going to happen. But let me just redefine what we mean by forgetting the speech. All right, so our perception is that we've gone completely blank, and that's probably not what really happened. What happens under the influence of adrenaline is your body starts to work better. It's the fight or flight response. And when adrenaline hits you, your mind works faster, your muscles work better, right? So that if you have to brawl, you get that adrenaline, you can take somebody down, you can lift that truck up off your child if your child's in danger, all right? You hear those stories from time to time. Adrenaline makes you work better. So this is what happens when you forget your speech. Your brain is now processing faster than your ability to speak because it's working faster than your mouth is. So this is what you think happens. And according to the United States Census in 2010, that's what you think happens, and it's because you're under the influence of adrenaline and your mind is working faster, similar to Neo in the Matrix, all right? Those bullets were traveling at the same speed, but he was processing faster, so he was able to move, right? Anybody ever been in a terrible car accident, some kind of trauma? Did time slow down? Time slows down, right? I was in a really bad accident when I was in my senior year of high school. Friend's Volkswagen Bug. We started rolling down the street. There was no seat belts in the back. I was in the back. I started doing this. I'm not kidding you. I looked like a hamster on a wheel doing this. As the car spun all around me, I was doing this. I came out with no injuries. My tennis racket exploded. It was graphite. Sent all kinds of graphite into my forearm, but it's no big deal. I just pulled them out, right? And like after it was over, I was like, yeah, it was cool. My friend was down there twitching like a little bug, almost dying. Not fun for him. Not fun for him. Oh, I don't know. I think he was probably going 45. He hit a puddle or something, and we started rolling down the street. All right? Time slows down when you're under the influence of adrenaline. So that's your perception of what happens. Here's what really happens. According to the United States Census in 2010, your audience experiences time in that way because they're not under the influence of adrenaline. So what you think is your mind going blank, or you think is you forgetting your speech, is actually you with your mind working faster than your ability to speak. Okay? So what I need you to do when you go blank is this. Breathe in, breathe out. Look at your outline, find what you want to say, and don't say anything until you have something to say. All right? And find it, boom, 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 now you're there, lift your head back up and start delivering. 9 times out of 10, that awkward pause that you're experiencing, when you look back and watch it on a videotape, you're going to find out there wasn't awkward at all. It actually happened in the way that I said. You're going to be like, that guy was not lying. I was highly skeptical at first, but then you're going to find out it's the truth. Do not fill it with a bunch of internal dialogue. All right, so you won't do this. According to... Oh, crap, I totally forgot my place on the speech here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to look at my outline. All right, where's it at? That's the A point. That's the B point. Okay, sub point 1. I'm underneath here. Yes, according to the U.S. Census. Thank God I brought my outline with me today, right? Don't do that stuff, all right? Don't apologize. Don't let us have your internal dialogue. You can think those things, but just search for the words. Just tell yourself, okay, Johnny said to pause, breathe, find the words. There's the words. I know what I want to say, and then say the words, okay? So that's what really happens when you say you're forgetting your speech, is your mind is working faster than your ability to find the words. Okay? So that's going to happen to you. Boom. Drawing a blank. Yep. Uh-huh. I'm trying to find more on here. Am I missing any? Forget my thoughts. Forget what I'm going to say, go blank. Mind goes blank. Yep. forget what I'm going to say. Okay, I think I got them. Did I miss any? All right, very good. Let's look at the next one here so that we don't always just start with this, the prime. Let's go here. Judgment. Okay, so judgment, that's another thing that we fear, and it's common to also being center of attention, people looking at me, all right? So we'll probably end up wiping those off if they're in common. So here's the deal on judgment. I need you to reframe and rethink, like adjust to what's really happening here. One, most of the time the harshest judgment comes from who? Yourself. And so one thing I need you to start with right away is be nicer to yourself. All right? So while you're up here speaking, you're the person judging yourself the harshest. So what I need you to do is start being nicer to yourself. One thing that people judge themselves on is their appearance. Every single one of us have something about us that we don't like, and we think everybody else doesn't like that. All right? So I'm always amazed by when they interview supermodels, and like, what exactly makes you beautiful? And they go, oh, I don't know. And they freeze up and they can't think of, like, really, seriously, you make your living off of beauty, right? You can't think of one thing. They always struggle. Then you ask them, what is it that you would change about yourself? Or what's the thing that you least like about your appearance? And they can start rattling things off, all right? So even supermodels who make their living off of beauty find something about themselves that they don't like, all right? So chances are you're in that position. What I want you to do when you're up here is not be thinking about those things. Be nicer to yourself. None of us are like the perfect, like golden ratio, which they say is tied to the idea of beauty. It's like this mathematical formula, right? None of us are a perfect golden ratio. All of us are imperfect in some way, so what? All right, that's what makes us who we are. And chances are, whatever it is that you don't like about yourself, other people aren't noticing. You know, maybe it was in second grade, people called you big ears, and so now you have a complex about having big ears, although you grew into your ears and they're a perfect ratio now, they weren't before, right? So you're just carrying baggage with you. Be nice to yourself, don't insult yourself, all right? And then give your audience credit. Most of the time, the people out here in the audience, they're not judging you, they're supporting you. They're rooting for you, they're cheering for you, okay? So I need you to reframe right from the beginning. You're gonna be nice to yourself, and you're gonna expect that the attitude from your audience is that they're being nice to you too. They're not gonna be judged. Now, I will be in the back of the room grading, but I'm a good grader, I'm a kind grader. You know, you're gonna get support from me as well, nice comments. Here's some things you can do better, here's some things that you did well. All right? So it's not like I'm back there judging you as if I'm like a highfalutin god of speech or something, you know? It's like, nope, they were not perfect. They did not use enough figures of speech. I shall strike them with the lightning bolt. All right? So that's not what's going to happen. All right? So you are being watched, but these are nice people watching you. They're not judging you and looking down on you. So I need you to work on that. Everyone's eyes on me is tied to that idea of judgment. It's if everybody's eyes are on you, but they're like admiring and they're thinking good things about you, tends we don't have a problem. But when they're looking at us and we're being scrutinized, which is perfect, we're not comfortable. People laughing at me, I think that's tied to judging. Yeah, especially if they judge you harshly if you mess up. Being made fun of is judgment. Being center of attention is usually tied to the idea. Where at? Appear foolish. Yeah, you're being judged. Okay? I think those are the ones that are tied to that idea. All right? So you got to give yourself more credit, give your audience more credit. Okay? That's the way we're going to reframe and rethink of that. Stumbling over your words. Guess what? It'll happen. So what, right? So what? If you stumble over your words, what you're going to do is you're just going to move on. Don't do this thing. So yeah, I went to my grandma's house. I don't even know what that was. I meant grandma, right? Don't signpost it in a highlight and be like, big neon sign here, I just messed up, right? What you're going to do is you're going to have your little stumble, you're going to move on as if it never happened, and or just repeat the word so that it's comprehensible, because I don't know what grandma is at all. It's like, is that profanity or is that grandma? It's kind of in between. Maybe grandma is not a nice lady, all right? So it'll happen, all right? So you're going to stumble over words. I do this all the time, particularly when I'm still getting comfortable with you all. Like, I've already done it several times in this class. I merge words together and make my own language. It's really bizarre, and I'm like, I hope that this doesn't show up on my reviews, all right? So it'll happen to you. You stumble over words. You'll make up new words. Just move on and or repeat the word, okay? Don't highlight it. Okay, yes, you will mess up. This is kind of judgment too, the criticism. Oh, the forgetting thing. Okay, rambling. I'm going to leave that up there as something different. I'm going to leave stuttering up there as something different too. Stumbling during your speech, you will. Saying words backwards is tied to that stumble, like words backwards, words merged together, words that just, I don't even know what happened to you, right? And you don't either. That kind of thing will happen. It's okay. Stammering I want to do later. Messing up your words, you will. Messing up your words, you will. Saying something wrong, I think that's probably getting at that idea, isn't it? Uh-huh. You will make errors. Did I miss anything? Anything that's tied to that? Okay, let's look here at stuttering. All right, so we got to talk about stuttering in two ways. One, we got to talk about it in the way that it usually happens in this class for most of you. And that's that, you stumble over a word, or, your dad said, something like that happens. And it will happen under the influence of adrenaline for some of you. All right, so it's no big deal. You just move on the same way that you would on any kind of stumble. Now, we need to talk about the clinical stuttering. So maybe somebody you have in your background where you used to stutter, or you still stutter, and you've seen a speech pathologist and you're working on that, and you're pretty good in interpersonal conversation, but when it's a high stress situation, high stress is a trigger for a clinical stutter. Okay, so we need to deal with this right now. Here's what we're going to do. Speech is supposed to be 5 to 8 minutes. If you're some person, and I'll be in the back of the room, and it'll probably be obvious at some point in time that you have like a stutter that's not just about nerves, it's a stutter that's a clinical kind of stutter. What I will say to myself is, they've gone over 8 minutes. They're supposed to only go 8 minutes, and I'm supposed to start penalizing after 8 minutes. But if you're stuttering, it's going to take you longer to get 8 minutes of content out. It'll take you 10 or 11 minutes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the idea of a penalty. I'm going to work with you. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to wait for you to get through your entire speech. What the audience is going to do, you all will be doing these peer critique cards. Here's something positive in the speech. Here's an area of improvement in the speech. Here's something positive in the speech. Not a single one of you are going to make a comment about the stutter, because you need to coach the coachable. You can't coach things that can't be fixed. All right? If somebody that's up here has a clinical stutter, would they fix it if they could? Yeah. So don't comment on it as if they're choosing to have a stutter, right? It's a clinical thing. What actually happens is there's a disconnect between the way that you hear and the time in which what you heard is processed. All right? So it is possible for any of you to have sort of a pseudo experience with what a stutter is about. Have any of you ever heard of that Speech Jammer app that's on iPhones or probably Android devices too, I would imagine? I don't really know. I don't even have a smartphone. I'm back in a different decade. All right? But here's a little video of somebody that's using the Speech Jammer.
App's called Speech Jammer. Essentially, this app makes it virtually impossible for you to speak properly. It's the weirdest thing ever. How it works is the app records your voice in real time and plays it back to you with a slight time delay. This feedback loop that the app creates of hearing your words slightly after you've said them is just so disruptive that it renders you speechless. So I say, let's give it a shot. Okay, so step 1, plug in headphones. Done. Turn up the volume. Done. Push the button below and try to talk. Here we go. So all we gotta do is just talk into the device here, and it'll this is not gonna go over well. So to make things more interesting, I've printed off some tongue twisters that I'm gonna try and say with Speech Jammer on. This is gonna be interesting. Let's do some tongue twisters. So the first one I have here is, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if it would chuck wood? That was perfect. Okay, let's try another classic one. Let's try Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peckers. Pickled. And I just spit on the lens. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickle peckers. How many peck of pickled pecker peppers? Peter Piper picker pig. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickle peppers, where's the pick of piper? Or is Peter Piper picked? Peter Piper picked peppers. It doesn't matter how fast or slow you say it. There's just no escaping the speech jammer. Okay, let's try this one. She sells just she sells by the seashore. Okay, for all you British people out there, I'm going to be saying a tongue twister of red lorry, yellow lorry, red lorry, yellow lorry. And for those of you who don't know what a lorry is, it's a truck. So let's try that, but with speech jammer. Red lorry, yellow lorry, red lorry, yellow lorry. The slower I say things, the more it delays. But the faster I say things, the more I repeat myself. I wish I could tell you guys that I was doing all that on purpose, but I wasn't. That was completely all the app. It really messes with you and you cannot talk properly. And if you don't believe me, go and download the app yourself. It's available on the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, so almost anybody can get it. Go, download it, try it out, and tell me what you think.
All right? Okay, and I want to make sure that I include that because, you know, there are people that stutter and you need to feel comfortable being you. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be you, all right? And that's true for every single one of you. I had a student about 5 years ago who had a stutter, and, you know, I didn't know it before he came up to give a speech, doing excellent work. Every single assignment had been turned in, every single assignment had been turned in with excellence, came forward to give their speech, stuttered during their speech, and I never saw the student again. And it's one of my great regrets as a teacher. It was a terrible loss to the entire class, and I feel terrible about it. I don't know what I could have done, but I'm doing something right now. If you have a stutter, you're welcome in this class. You can do this thing, all right? And see me in office hours if you need anything else, all right? If you need to talk about this. I don't ever want to lose another student because of that. All right, so there's a difference between what most of us will stutter, where we stumble over words, and a clinical stutter, and we're going to work with either. All right, so it may happen. We'll get through it. Okay, speaking too fast, definitely a problem for some people, and it's because most of us, when we get that dose of adrenaline, most of us can't keep up with our own mouths after we get the adrenaline, and therefore we go blank. Some of you, though, are built in such a way that you can make up words right on the spot. It doesn't even matter. You could talk like this all day long. You could make it up. You could talk about yesterday when you went to the park, and you could say, yeah, when I went there, I saw these two kids, and there was a brown dog, and the brown dog was, you know, chasing the black dog, and I'm making all this up, and it's never even happened. But I can do this because, you know, some of you can just find the words and make it up and BS your way. It's no problem, right? You got it all planned, and you have a 7-minute speech that you practice at home. You did it in 2 minutes and 30 seconds in front of everybody, right? All right? So some of you are built that way. You need to know who you are then. Everybody just needs to find out what kind of nervous they are. If you're a fast talker nerves, then what you need to do is experience time when you come forward and deliver it like this. And you'll feel weird, but your audience will be experiencing your voice like this. All right? So you need to start to understand who you are and just adjust. All right? So if you speak too fast, then while you're up here, intentionally speak too slow. Okay? Rambling. You won't ramble if you're prepared. All right? Here's what you're going to do. You're going to practice. You'll have a plan. You'll practice that plan. And then you'll perform what you've practiced. Then you won't ramble. If you're up here and all of a sudden you're talking about high school when you stole a street sign and your speech is supposed to be about snowboarding, do a little self-check and say, why am I talking about this right now? I did not plan it, therefore I will stop, all right? So some of you are storytellers. Don't start adding in a whole bunch of additional details. Plan and practice and then perform what you've practiced. Okay, then you won't ramble. All right. Yeah, you will be prepared. You got 2 months. If you're not prepared, it's going to be because you chose not to be prepared. All right, you will be prepared. Do we agree you're going to be prepared? All of you? Every single one of you? Okay, good. We're all right then. You're going to work hard. And you can run speeches by your family, your friends, your peers, or me in office hours. So I can help you with that. All attention on me. We missed that earlier. Okay, not being prepared. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yes, that goes back to there'll be times when you stumble. It's okay. Just project as best as you can. Appearance, people watching me. That kind of goes back to being judged. Okay, being boring, that's new. All right, being boring. We got that up here twice. Being boring. So don't be boring. All right? That's pretty easy. Don't be boring. All right, so here's how you're not going to be boring. One, you're going to think of a good topic. And you're going to ask yourself, is it likely that my audience is going to enjoy this topic? And if the answer is yes, you'll do that topic. If the answer is no, you may still do that topic. Because you may find a way to make it interesting to your audience. Or you may just be comfortable with saying, you know what, I am so passionate about this that I believe my passion will be enough to be contagious, and a lot of times it is. All right, so let me give you an example. Imagine this as a thesis statement. Today I'm going to give you more information about salt. Right? Oh gosh, heard that thesis statement, and just a little bit, my spine went like this. I'm like, oh my God, I feel so bad for this student. This is going to be terrible, right? It was the best speech, like one of the top 10 speeches I've ever seen, all right? Sounds really, really boring, right? I'm going to give you a speech about salt. So the student gave the history of salt, how it's been so important in preservatives, how it's been so important for the advancement of society, how phrases like he's not worth his weight in salt came from slavery and things, and gave a speech about really highfalutin like organic salts that chefs use. Some of them cost as much as $1,000 an ounce. Super interesting. All right? So if you're passionate about something, chances are your passion will be contagious for the rest of your audience. Okay, so just give yourself a little question there. Do I think they're going to like it? If not, can I make them like it? And or do I believe I'm so passionate about it that they're going to just catch the contagious fever with me? Okay, and then if the answers to all those are no, choose a different topic. Okay, so then you won't be boring. People not caring about my topic, not being interesting, back to kind of the boring. You're going to make sure you take care of that. I love, who wrote this? Did you ever debate or anything at all? Debaters have the tiniest handwriting in the world usually, so you would be a very, very good debater. Wow, all right. I like this. Okay, all right, I think these are kind of it. Knee-jerk reactions. Can somebody explain to me what's meant by that?
Someone like throws a dodgeball at you or something.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I thought that's kind of what was going on. All right, very good. You should, yeah, well, I can see that though. So knee-jerk reaction and then becoming disliked, I think, maybe not getting approval from the peers. I think those are all related, right? Just all of a sudden, people just don't receive it well and they don't like you anymore. All right? So that's a fear. A couple things I have to say about that. Once again, think about your topic. Think about the way in which you pitch your topic. And then also, maybe there's a time and place through which where people just need to get pissed off sometimes. Maybe your topic is that important. And maybe you know that your personal position is not the position of 95% of your audience, but you have the courage to come forward and stand and speak on that topic in the way that you desire anyways. So be it. Will they permanently dislike you? Probably not. But they may leave the room kind of upset at you for maybe a class or two. All right? So if you want to do a topic that you think is really controversial and most people are not going to like it, you have the freedom to do that. Okay? I don't know these people. Yeah, that's true. You don't really know these people. By the time you're speaking, you're going to know them much, much better. You'll know your group in particular, and we'll start to get to know each other through the various shenanigans that we do in here. Okay, so that won't be entirely true. Sometimes not knowing the people is a comfort. Sometimes it's easier to speak in front of strangers than it is in front of friends or family. All right? How will you react? So maybe this was really getting at the idea, I haven't done public speaking enough to even know what I'm going to go through, where my strengths or my weaknesses are. Am I right about that? Who wrote this one on the board? Is that what you were getting at there? You're not really even sure what's going to happen?
Well, I've done public speaking and debate before. It's just anxiety disorder. So.
Okay. So who knows who you're going to be, what version of you is going to show up that day? Right? Okay, I think that's a realistic concern. And can you see how there's tiers and there's layerings to all of our issues and concerns? And if so, we're just going to work with it, man. You just let me know, okay? So you let me know. All right. Audience not laughing at the joke, that could happen. I highly recommend you don't make too many jokes. Because that's like the worst feeling in the world. And then you're like, and then she said 7. Is this thing on? Right? You do that thing. When you do a joke, a punchline, you're like expecting a big rocket laugh, and instead you get like crickets. And one cricket like does literally throw a dodgeball at you. It's like, cricket, cricket. That sucked, right? So jokes are super, super hard. I recommend being funny after you've done this for a little while, all right? But if you feel good, go for it. All right, failing in front of the crowd, sorry. See, cloud, just happened. All right, failing in front of the crowd. Highly unlikely that failure is what's going to happen. We call that catastrophizing, where you go to the extreme. I saw in the previous class somebody put falling flat on my face. Like what they meant was they literally, I said, do you mean proverbially, like, you know, you're not going to do a great job? They said, no, like literally I stumble everywhere I go. And I'm like, well, chances are that's not going to happen. You might stumble, but you won't fall on your face, all right? So you're not going to fail, but you won't be perfect. You're not going to fail, but you won't be perfect. You certainly are going to make some mistakes. So let's just cross this off now. That's not going to happen. The audience disapproval, we talked about that already, all right? That's good. Conveying and performing well enough, yes, you will, if you practice. And then bumbling, I think is what that one's getting at, right? What was it? Babbling. Okay, so kind of like rambling, babbling, going on and on. Don't talk about things you didn't plan to talk about.